What's up guys, Max here, returning to talk about that Kombat Pack 2 gameplay trailer. There was a lot of stuff they showed off between the four characters, that's Boraicho, Triborg, Alien, and Leatherface, and I wanted to quickly go over some impressions and things that you can see throughout the trailer. First off, the character that left the biggest impression on me was absolutely Triborg. For some reason, robot characters in fighting games that look particularly awesome have a big appeal to me, and this one is absolutely my number one character of the trailer. Between gameplay and visually, it just looks absolutely freaking awesome. After that, I would actually say that Leatherface is looking extremely good. I've mentioned several times in the previous times we've talked about this that I'm not a huge Leatherface fan, but the way they've actually animated his weight transfer and how he throws around what appears to be this super huge heavy chainsaw looks really damn good. Anyone that knows how animation kind of works, it's pretty difficult to emulate that heavy lifting movement of transfer of weight from one side to the other. And Leatherface is doing a great job. He actually looks a lot better than Jason does, because Jason kind of swings around a giant hatchet and it's got like the weight of like a paper knife, you know? He's throwing that thing everywhere, while Leatherface looks more rooted in reality. And I would say that the majority of characters that I'm seeing in this Kombat Pack animate well, like better than a lot of the original characters you see in MKX, like the original roster, like Cassie, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion. You can see that these guys have gotten a lot better right now than they were at the beginning of this project, which makes me really excited for future Kombat Packs and whatever next game, most likely Injustice, that they're going to be working on. Outside of that, Boraicho does look pretty good. I'm not interested in playing this character as well, just because he's a dude that runs around and farts and burps and throws up everywhere. I'm shocked that they actually kept that aspect of him, because that was a big aspect of Boraicho when he was a joke character in previous games. And in Mortal Kombat X's story, he's much more serious, so it's a little funny to see this dude with a much more serious design just yakking everywhere and literally farting into your mouth. And finally, the Alien, I think, animates well and has some really interesting stuff going on with variation-wise. But something just looks a little off about the Xenomorph. The actual details on the creature do look okay, but when you get really close in, it just kind of shows like a little bit too plasticiness to it. Like it looks like a guy is in a suit. And I understand that is one of the limitations of making an alien a fighting game character. It's pretty tough because aliens were used to like running on walls and looking very bug-like and things like that. And now you have like this bipedal thing that is running around and chopping shit up. So I totally understand the challenge that the NetherRealm guys have taken by making this character actually fully playable, but interestingly enough, I do like a lot of the gameplay aspects of what Alien is doing. So let's hope that some stuff changes a little bit later on. I think the alien needs to look more like a soggy bug than more like a giant plasticky dude. So we'll see what happens there. But let's talk about the biggest stuff, which is the gameplay. Leatherface looks brutal. A lot of attacks that leave the opponent in a juggling state, and even others that use meter to do so as well. Leatherface is most likely going to be a hard, heavy-hitting style character because of how long a lot of his attacks take to activate. A lot of like wind-ups and swings and things like that, meaning he's probably going to hit extremely hard and have combos that are shorter but do a lot of damage. Outside of the fact of the way he looks, there's no way he can be worse than Jason is in the game right now, as Jason is technically, on many people's tier lists, one of the lowest characters in the game, so we'll see what happens with Leatherface. Now, Triborg is the most interesting of the four to me, because he represents three different characters that have been throughout Mortal Kombat: Smoke, Cyrax, and Sector. And they did a lot between each three of the variations that they did show, the differences that are going to be between them. And there are very few characters in Mortal Kombat X where if you compare one moveset to another moveset in a variation, most characters are fairly similar. Like a best example of this is Predator, where the majority of combos that you would do with Predator are pretty similar. Like he has a base bread and butter that works throughout all of his variations using similar special moves. And I hope this is different for Triborg, because Triborg now represents a multitude of characters, and I know some others that do represent a multitude of characters like Jade with Katana. I hope they do something with Triborg where all three of these variations do appear and play dramatically different, because from the gameplay we saw, there are many different things happening between all three different colors or all three different variations right now. And please, I really hope that it ends up being that way, where it's not like the same exact thing with one or two different special moves maybe. I would like each character to feel fairly unique, and mostly their normals, like their regular normal attacks and some combo strings, to remain faithful. Like those are the things that you stay throughout all the different variations. So I'm gonna remain hopeful that that's what we're gonna get when the character finally comes out, because he is one of my #1 characters that I want to see and play in this game right now. Next up, Boraicho, and can I talk about the pit stage, by the way? Like, this stage looks freaking amazing. Like, back in the background, you see a couple characters duking it out, which you've always seen in previous Mortal Kombat games. Blaze, which is like a character that usually wasn't playable, but was playable in very few select MK games. This stage looks fantastic. The other interesting thing is that this stage was not a part of the Kombat Pack 2 DLC that they talked about at the end of the trailer, meaning that there is going to be additional DLC within the future months where these characters are going to come out, which is leading me to hopes that we're going to get costume packs and more additional stages and things like that, because man, if we get more classic MK stuff that looks like this, I'll be very happy. But Boraicho retains a lot of similar special moves that he had in the previous games he was in. If you did play the PlayStation 2 games, you guys will be familiar with Boraicho when he had his little like stick weapon. He does have that between one of his variations. It looks like he's going to have one which is like a disgusting variation. One is that a drunken style variation, and then one that actually uses the polearm / stick thing that you all remember from previous Mortal Kombat games. He does animate pretty well, and I thought he could look a lot worse, but he does have a certain disgusting elegance to him. And last but not least, the Alien. And the Alien is acting very similar to how Baraka acts in some previous games, with a little bit more mobility, as the Alien kind of hunches forward, goes in, and uses his tail for a variety of attacks, which is pretty awesome, and also uses the blades on the arms, which are from the Tarkatan Warriors. Now, I saw two variations within the trailer. The first one starts off with the blade arms, which I think all of them are going to have. It has kind of a medium-sized, like, giant elongated alien head. And the other one looks to be like a hive queen, like an actual queen-style head, which can put eggs in the background, which will launch a face hugger and grab you and lock you in position, which is a fantastic freaking idea. And one thing I totally missed when I was first watching the trailer is that the queen variation can also use like the soldier aliens, the worker aliens, as tools. So one drops out from the sky and attacks the opponent. That is pretty awesome, and throws back to the second Aliens movie where the alien isn't alone and hunting a bunch of people. They all work together to kind of take the opponent down, which is probably going to look pretty awesome if she has a whole bunch of special moves that are similar to that. I didn't see anything that kind of hinted towards the third variation. I do hope we get one that has a much more elongated alien head, because all of them look a little stumpy right now. But I would say that the alien is animating well, but it's animating kind of like it's a dude in a suit, because that's what it was, instead of the very bug-like creature. I think we all can expect now that the majority of characters that are going to be in Mortal Kombat X are going to look and appear very bipedal and human in some way, and not very monster-like that we would expect from old MK games where you have like Kintaro, who's an actual freaking monster. Other than that, pretty satisfied with this. I like the fact that they're adding stages. I'm looking forward to the future DLC, and we did look up the fact that the Apocalypse Pack is going to include new classic costumes or new reworked costumes for characters like Takeda, Devora, as well as Aaron Black. And I play a couple of those characters, so I'm really damn happy with that. Other than that, what do you guys think about the characters that were revealed so far? Some people have been really lukewarm about this Kombat Pack, expressing the fact that this one kind of is awful. There's not a lot of returning MK characters, which leads me hoping that the future Kombat Packs, if they do exist from Mortal Kombat X, will have a raw return of some classic MK characters. I can only hope at this point, because this stuff looks really damn good in my opinion. I can't wait to play as Triborg and Alien. As always, dudes, thank you a ton for hanging out. I'll be back as soon as possible with more MKX footage, news, and information. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.